Today on Week in Review, a report on drug deaths from the BC Coroner's Service recently emerged. The Terrace RCMP once again spoke about the recent fire on Olson Avenue, and Taylor Backrack had some thoughts on the Canadian-US tariff situation. Hello, I'm Cael Maslin, and thank you for joining us here on Week in Review, where we cover all of the news here in the Northwest from this past week. We begin with a report from the BC Coroner's Service. Although unregulated drug deaths are down 13% in BC overall, up here in the north, some numbers have continued to rise. Here's CFTK-TV's Cael Maslin, who will take a deeper look into the matter.
Terrace had the third highest rate of unregulated drug deaths in the province on the latest report from the BC Coroner's Service. 25 people in Terrace died from unregulated drugs in 2024, making the rate of death 109 per 100,000. In comparison, the rate in Kitimat was at 90 per 100,000 in 2023 and dropped significantly to 48 per 100,000 in 2024. Although the climbing numbers in Terrace don't match up with the overall decline in the rest of the province, the new Cael Hospital's opening might provide some hope for the future. While that new hospital and Seven Sisters building does not include a treatment center, it's worth noting that with the expansion, 10 additional beds were added to the acute psychiatric inpatient unit, and 5 additional beds were opened up in the Seven Sisters building for those with ongoing mental health issues. The Cael Hospital also has 2 inpatient treatment beds for people withdrawing from alcohol, and provides services to people who are experiencing withdrawal or who have overdosed. Those seeking further treatment or detox are directed to those. However, wait times and proximity of those services has been notoriously problematic. MLA for Skeena and critic for mental health and addictions Claire Rattay reacted to the coroner's report online. She said province-wide recovery programs, treatment facilities, and a crackdown on deadly drugs is needed now. For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Cael Maslin.
The Terrace Fire Department recently released another statement about the fire that occurred a couple of weeks ago on the 4500 block of Olson Avenue. The fire in question was bad enough for the fire crew to encounter heavy smoke accumulation and low visibility inside of the building. An adult woman was also found in the structure, and despite attempts to save her, she was later declared deceased at the hospital. The fire department then stated that they will be working along with the RCMP to review their investigation into how the fire was started and figure out how best to ensure the public safety moving forward. It was recently announced by the City of Terrace that local crews will be upsizing the main sewer line leading into Terrace's sewage treatment plant. This work is expected to last at least for a couple of months and conclude sometime at the end of March. The main consequences of said work is reportedly set to include traffic on the 5,100 Graham Avenue block being rerouted, as well as some noise disturbances resulting from pumps and generators having to be running 24 hours a day. Terrace is getting help paying for this project via the Northwest BC Resource Benefits Alliance agreement with the provincial government. Over now to Kitimat, where RCMP Officer Sergeant Rob Gardner recently presented a report to Council on the past year of policing in Kitimat. There's been a slight downturn in crime in Kitimat, and Sergeant Gardner said that being proactive and reporting crimes are top factors in keeping communities safe.
I know that one of the big things that we do, we're a very proactive detachment. We do a lot of patrols out on the road and stuff, and a lot of foot patrols, so I think that helps quite a bit. But no, it's just what the ebbs and flows that we have in policing sometimes. We do ask everybody, no crime's too small. So if you do have anything, if you have any mischief or anything that you might not normally report it, make sure you do report it so that we're aware of what's happening in our community.
February 1st marked RCMP Appreciation Day in British Columbia, which was a day to give thanks to the National Police Force. Staying in Kitimat, the Minette Bay West Park development has been many years in the making, where it looks to create Kitimat's first waterfront public recreational space. The park officially opened last June, but was closed last month for the incorporation of a new feature. Here's CFTK-TV's Cael Maslin again with a look at the park's latest addition.
First conceived in 2017, the Minette Bay West project has been many phases in the making, and the product is nothing short of beautiful. The park features interpretive signage, fire pits, amenities, picnic tables, an open, grassy field, a causeway shelter, and the most recent addition this past month, a floating dock.
This new park feature allows marine access for small watercrafts like canoes and kayaks.
LNG Canada provided the aluminum floating dock and gangway, and the associated construction came from the Destination Development Fund. The park's lands were given to the District of Kitimat in 2015 from Rio Tinto. Minette Bay West is tucked away in a rich, natural, biodiverse environment, but is only a few minutes' drive from downtown Kitimat. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
Next up, we have a look at what local MP Taylor Bachrach had to say about the ongoing rifts between Canada and the United States. And even though those in the Northwest are hundreds of kilometers away from the border, he says that unity is very much alive.
Starting this Tuesday, a 30-day delay has been put into place for tariffs on American products at the Canada and U.S. border. However, Canadian politicians are still on alarm, saying that they'll take the 30-day breathing period, but reiterate that there's a lot of work ahead.
The incoming president in Washington, that relationship has really been turned on its head, and we now have a situation that's more unpredictable and unlike anything that we've seen for a long, long time. And so the threat of 25% tariffs, that if that came true, that would be devastating for our economy. It would cost thousands and thousands of jobs and would put us in a really bad situation.
And for Bachrach, his sense is that Trump is saying America first, but that there's more undiscovered layers to President Trump's negotiations.
I'm not entirely sure that this is about tariffs in the first place. I think this is the way that this particular president negotiates through this sort of irrational, unpredictable, shock and awe sort of threatening of other countries to try to gain some sort of negotiating advantage.
According to Bachrach, this reality that Canadians face right now is not something to be unexpected when it comes to the president's ways of negotiating. And back in his first term in 2016, he placed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum products.
So this is the kind of thing that he's known for, and he signaled it in his inauguration speech. He's also made some incredibly irrational and scary proclamations about our sovereignty and the fact that he sees Canada being absorbed into the United States.
Now, for the $1.3 billion border plan designed back in December in order to strengthen the border overall, it was announced yesterday that there will be an appointment of a, quote, fentanyl czar who will engage with U.S. counterparts. There will be a Canada and U.S. joint strike force to combat crime, and there will be eyes on the border by having nearly 10,000 frontline personnel on the clock running 24/7. Additionally, the Prime Minister signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime that will be supported by Canada's investment of $200 million.
At the same time, we support providing border guards with the tools that they need to protect our border. We're very concerned about the flow of illegal guns from the United States into Canada and the impact that's having on crime in this country. And so investing in those people, investing in those resources is something that should be done for sure.
From CFTK-TV in Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
The mining industry applauded BC's decision to fast-track permits for projects while grappling with the threat of U.S. tariffs, but research suggests economic factors are behind long delays for some other proposals. Rosemary Collard, an associate professor at Simon Fraser University, said research shows regulatory fast-tracking doesn't guarantee projects will materialize. Collard is the co-lead author of a recent study that looked at 27 BC mining projects that were granted environmental assessment certificates since 1995 and also projected to open by 2022, finding that most of them failed in their goal and 13 of which never even opened. Of the 20 that did not open on time, regulation was a factor in only 3 of them, while the study said that economic factors and viability was a much more common holdup. Up next, the Regional District of Kitimat-Stikine has released a new survey. Welcome back. The Regional District of Kitimat-Stikine has recently posted on their website and on social media that they have recently launched a brand new survey. The The survey in question involves the district looking to get whatever information they can from local residents, businesses, and communities on how they all use compost so that the district can give said information to their solid waste team. And as an added incentive, every resident in the area that ends up completing the survey will also become eligible to enter a draw to win either one of 2 Earth Machine composters or one of 2 rain barrels, although businesses and entire communities cannot enter. The survey is available online via links on the district's website as well as on their Facebook page. The Rushbrook Trail, that spans a total of 1.7 kilometers throughout Prince Rupert, will be closed down for the entirety of February. The reason for the month-long closure, according to the City of Prince Rupert, is because the nonprofit company known as Cael Trails will be doing work to upgrade accessibility to the trail to go along with the addressing of some safety concerns. Some potential alternatives for people looking to take a hike that were suggested by the City of Prince Rupert include the Seal Cove Salt Marsh Loop, as well as the Cloudberry Trail that was fully completed recently, also by Cael Trails. After getting some questions and hearing some rumors about the future of their library, the City of Prince Rupert put out a statement to provide proper context. In 2024, Prince Rupert said they were approached by the library board, who asked them to fund the building of a new library since the current one is old and in poor condition. But with the city committing so much money to fixing their many infrastructure issues, they instead believe that the way to solve this problem is to try and join up with the Vancouver Island Regional Library Network. If they were to do so, the network would then seem to be on the hook for providing any potential upgrades to the library, but it's currently unclear if this will end up happening. Over in Prince Rupert, once again, the RCMP recently posted a notification disclosing that they are looking for help from the public to find a wanted woman. Amanda Dawn Wilder is wanted for both uttering threats as well as break and enter, and she has been described as a 5'4", 161-pound Caucasian female with brown medium-length hair and blue eyes, who was last seen wearing a black jacket with a furry hood and black and white tights. If you locate her, you are asked to call the Prince Rupert RCMP at 250-627-0700. Once again in the north, but this time over in Dawson Creek, the BC RCMP North District Major Crime Unit is still investigating a murder that occurred in 2021. Near Highway 2 on Clark Road in Pouce Coupe, 55-year-old Lance Wayne Patterson was found on May 9, 2021, and despite this homicide happening nearly half a decade ago now, the police still haven't figured out who was responsible for this act. Patterson's sister, Donna, also recently shared a heartfelt plea asking for help in solving this case.
My name is Dana Patterson, Lance's sister, and for 2.5 years, our family hasn't had any peace. Questions like who and why haunt us every day. Lance was a son, a father, and my only sibling. No one deserves to die the way Lance did. My 85-year-old father lives with a nightmare that no parent should ever have to experience. We know that someone has information about Lance's murder. Please do the right thing and come forward.
Those looking to turn in such information can call the Dawson Creek RCMP at 250-784-3700 or BC Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. The air quality advisory that had been put into place for the community of Houston by the Ministry of Environment and Parks, as well as the Northern Health Authority, was finally ended on Thursday morning, and anyone who is hoping to keep a lookout for these kinds of advisories in their local area in the future can do so by going on the Government of BC's website. After the break, Smithers recently posted an update on one of their bylaws. Welcome back. The CEO of a northern BC company known as Trigon Pacific Terminals recently wrote an open letter that was addressed to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Trigon asks in the letter for the government to lift the monopoly that they gave to the Prince Rupert Port Authority that allows them to export liquefied petroleum gas in Prince Rupert. Trigon is asking for this so that they can begin construction on an upcoming project, a $750 million liquefied petroleum gas facility of their own. Not too long ago, the town of Smithers posted an update on their website on the subject on one of their bylaws. The bylaw that the update was speaking on was given the number of 1941, and it relates to the town's recreation fees and charges for the next couple of years or so. The fees are said to be reviewed every 3 years in order to make sure that they reflect the rates in similar communities and properly align with cost recovery practices in Smithers. Some of the aforementioned fees were recently updated, include ones involving the Riverside Campground, town meeting spaces, as well as local fields. A closer look at what those fees now look like is on the town's website, and anyone looking to give feedback can do so by speaking at the February 11th Smithers Town Council meeting. The town of Smithers has advertised that they are looking to fill out the 7 spots that are available on their Accessibility Advisory Committee. The committee's purpose focuses on the experiences of people living with disabilities and then works with the town's council on making sure that accessibility and inclusion in Smithers sees improvement. The deadline to apply for the committee is March 5th, and those looking to do so can get a physical form from the town office or an online one from their website. Still to come, the postseason is nearing for the Terrace River Kings. Welcome back. Over to a fairly big announcement now. The provincial government is set to open 6 new Indigenous Justice Centres to ensure that the total number of these centres throughout the whole of the province increases to a total of 15. One of the new centres is also set to be shared between the communities of Burns Lake and Hazelton, joining the previously existing centre in Prince Rupert as the locations that will primarily serve northern BC. Some of the other new locations are set to include Fort St. John, Kamloops, and Williams Lake. And as the Terrace River Kings wrapped up their season in the CIHL, they will now get a lengthy break until they hit the ice again in a couple of weeks. Damian Smith from CFTK-TV has more.
Well, the season has come to a close for the Terrace River Kings of the Central Interior Hockey League, and once again, it was a successful one for the club. Finishing with a record of 16-2-0, they'll head into the playoffs as the number 1 seed, which includes a buy-in.
Back, that might be one of our best records. The league used to only have 14 to 16 games, so with an 18-game schedule, it's been our best season so far, and now we're looking forward to playoffs.
The River Kings are the team to beat in the CIHL, not only being at the top of the standings, but also they won the Lightning Cup trophy for the best regular season, the Cameron Kerr Cup as the playoff champions, and the Koi Cup, all in the year of 2024. And this was the first time the River Kings have won the Koi Cup, which is a trophy that is more than 100 years old.
Well, we've been pretty consistent the last 4 or 5 years. We made Koi finals 2 years ago, lost to Quesnel, and then we were obviously lucky enough to win it last year in Powell River. There are a lot of good teams in our league, so we just continue to just do our own thing, and you know, every game is important no matter who we're playing.
The team is coming off of a loss against the Hazelton Wolverines for this past weekend, but as Francoeur puts it, they could use a loss here and there.
The loss is maybe just a wake-up call for the team because it's our second loss of the year. Our first loss was in October, so sometimes it's a good thing for your team to, you know, face a little adversity ahead of the playoffs.
The CIHL playoffs will be starting this weekend with the Hazelton Wolverines against the Prince Rupert Rampage in the West Division, while the Williams Lake Stampeders and Smithers Steelheads will be battling it out in the East Division. The Quesnel Kangaroos have the other buy-in in the East Division, and the River Kings will play the winner of Hazelton or Prince Rupert. From CFTK-TV, I'm Damian Smith.
In more local sporting news, we also have a season recap and playoff preview for the Smithers Steelheads as they also entered the CIHL playoffs, but as an underdog. Damian Smith from CFTK-TV again has the details.
Now, we just wrapped up our season recap of the Terrace River Kings, who will be manning the number 1 spot in the playoffs, getting a buy-in. Now we move on to the Smithers Steelheads, who will be up against the Williams Lake Stampeders, here as the number 6 seed.
Going into the playoffs, obviously, Williams Lake's a great team. They're very structured. They got good talent. So, you know, we're up against a really strong opponent, and we'll see how it goes.
And for Coach Tucker, he knows that the odds are not in his favor, but there is a new opportunity with a fresh sheet of ice.
I don't know if it would be realistic to not see ourselves as the underdog. I would think that everybody in the league expects Williams Lake to come away as the victor. But again, crazy things happen in the playoffs, and we're not walking into the to the arena on Saturday night thinking we're up against an insurmountable opponent. But obviously, you look at the records. They speak for themselves, but there's still a game to be played.
Now, the Steelheads will be hosting the first game of the playoffs despite being the lower seed. However, if they do come out with a win, all will be in their favor going into Game 2 if they can come out with that first win of the series.
Yeah, I think you could look at it that way as, you maybe, if you're looking for an advantage, you get your first game at home, and then if you're a good home team, you have a good home game, you win one, and then the pressure really goes to the team that has the 2 games at home. They have to win back to back.
And going forward, the Steelheads, despite having a 6-12 record this year, they want to make sure that they can push their boundaries going into next season and potentially passing teams like the Prince Rupert Rampage, getting up into the top 4 or top 5 spots and being in the top half of the standings going into the 2025 and 2026 season. From CFTK-TV in Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
Vancouver had a pretty significant snowfall this week that brought traffic to a standstill in some areas. CTV's Ben Nesbitt has that story.
Snow and ice coated the road along Highway 1 in Langley, leading to periodic closures. The conditions proved to be too much for some trucks to handle. Tow trucks were called in to get them out of there.
The biggest decision that has to be made is, do you need to go? And if you are going to go, do you have the equipment to go? That's the professional judgment of the driver, and too often that gets lost in haste and in the rush to get things where they need to be.
With a cold snap and potentially more snow in the forecast, officials are warning drivers to be aware of the treacherous conditions.
If you don't need to use the highways, particularly Highway 1, don't use the highway. If you do need to use it, leave extra time for your travels and make sure you have good condition snow tires.
On local roads, it really varies, but the cleanup could take some time.
There are pockets of areas that have been hit a little bit harder, and those might be a little bit difficult, but we get into them.
The conditions caused issues at YVR as well. After sitting on the tarmac for hours, this plane finally got de-iced, one of many delayed flights. Dozens were also canceled.
When we do see weather, we do have to slow down and make sure that our operations are safe and secure, and sometimes we do see an impact to flight schedules as a result. Our full snow operations is active right now, so all of our snow equipment and our de-icing facilities are fully active.
Environment Canada is warning that Tuesday's morning commute could be disrupted by more snow in various parts of the Lower Mainland. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
That wraps up this edition of Week in Review. Make sure to tune into our regular newscast on Monday at 5, 6, and 11 o'clock here on CFTK-TV. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a good weekend.